Facebook. This is Good Morning Facebook. This is Jim Blythe, Veterans Impact Show. We're here for you to showcase veterans and what they're doing in the community. This is going to be a great program. We're talking with tremendous veterans who have done so much already. We're going to be talking about Skyball and their beneficiaries. So please stay with us, join in, tune in, plug in, and share this. This is a great program for you to be able to share with all your buddies. So here we go in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2. Welcome to the Veterans Impact Show, where our motto is Charlie Mike. Continue the mission. I'm your host, Jim Blythe, U.S. Navy Vietnam veteran and certified senior advisor. Join me as we feature veterans who continue the mission of leadership and commitment in our communities after serving our great nation. Why, you never know who you're going to meet or where we're going to go. So welcome aboard. What a really, really great day. Thank you for being part of Veterans Impact Show. And today I have a great show all about the veterans who are doing so much in the community and working with Skyball. I want to introduce, I guess, my co-host for today, Jim Darwin, a really great friend, United States Marine. Jim, you have had so much service to veterans since you got out of the Corps. You've worked in the state of Texas. Tell us just real quick some of the things you've done in the state of Texas.
Thanks, Jim, and welcome everybody. I'm honored to be here with Admiral French and with Rex and Donna King on your show today. So thank you so much, Jim, for putting this together. Just real briefly, I served Uncle Sam's Misguided Children, as we affectionately call ourselves, and had the wonderful pleasure of getting to meet a gentleman when I fixed his airplanes when I was prior enlisted, Jerry Patterson, who served as the Texas Land Commissioner for 12 years. And Commissioner Patterson put me down at the Veterans Land Board, and I ended up as the assistant executive secretary of the Veterans Land Board, doing all the day-to-day operations. And with that, the loan programs, which we came in 2003 and took them from $230 million to over $1 billion in loans in 2 years. And also was fortunate to be involved with the construction of 2 of our state veteran nursing homes, which now have grown to 9. I got to see that side of the equation, and then all the way to building the first 2 state veteran cemeteries, of which we now have 4 in the state of Texas. So did that, did policy for the General Land Office, not only for veterans, but also for all of the federal policy in D.C., and worked with a number of our congressional representatives up there. And then transferred over to the Health and Human Services Commission, where I served as the Senior Advisor for Veteran Affairs at HHSC, working veteran mental health programs and all that until I retired last year from the state, young enough to be able to do that, which was great. And now I'm still out here. I'm part of the Veteran Advisory Council to the North Texas VA Healthcare System, served on the Center of Excellence for VA there in Waco for brain health to Dr. Russell, and still involved here in the Austin area as chairman of the Austin Veteran Day Parade, which is right around the corner from us, and I've been very, very busy with that. So that and trying to play a little golf and going forward. That's what I've been up to, and working Airpower Foundation and putting Skyball together with our new partner we've had. This will be our 3rd year with your World Champion Series Texas Rangers. Which we're extremely proud of that. Yay. So at Skyball, I'm sure we're going to have all this stuff on the field where we'll have dinner, all of the working on trying to get the trophy there at Skyball so people can see. That would be a fun attraction.
All right, Jim, let's introduce Admiral William French. Admiral French, you were a submariner, I guess we say in Navy, but what is so amazing to me is when I found out you are the CEO of the Armed Forces YMCA. Did I say that correctly? Armed Services YMCA?
Hey, Jim, right on. Thank you so much. Thanks for letting me be here. I almost got too tired listening to all the great things Jim did in the last whatever amount of time since he retired. So, Jim, thanks for your service. Rex and Donna, thanks for allowing me to be here. Jim as well. It's good for a Texas boy. I was born in San Antonio to be able to get back on a show where we're talking about folks in Texas. So I spent 36 years, lucky enough to work with great people. I was on 5 different submarines. In the last 10 years of my career, I spent really doing infrastructure. So I supported, and at one point in time, at the end of my career, I ran all the bases for the Navy, 82 bases across the globe. And in that, really in that capacity, I got exposed to a lot of the programs, or all the programs the Navy runs for their families. So that's really where I fell in love with the ability to go do good things, particularly for junior enlisted service members. And that's what the Armed Services YMCA does. We run programs focused on helping those young service members, all services, not just the Navy, but all services, to include the Guardians and the Coast Guard. And we focus on pay grades E5 and below. So we do childcare, preschool, enrichment classes for kids both before school and during school. We do camping. We do during COVID, we actually started doing some support for those that had problems with food insecurity. So now we run food insecurity programs at all of our branches, working closely with those folks that do that for the country. So all the food banks. So it's a great opportunity. We've got great support from Airpower Foundation. We do things both in Texas and outside of Texas. In fact, we are currently at 90 different bases across the country, to include both Alaska and Hawaii. We try to make a difference really in the lives of those young service members and their families. And I think we all know on today's world, the process of recruiting them and retaining them is so critical. I think even the Marine Corps is struggling trying to get their quotas for accessions. And then once you get them in the door, you got to do something to keep them on board and allow them to continue to serve. And I think taking care of those families while they're serving is so critical for their decision to stay on and continue to serve our great country.
Well, next I'd like to introduce Rex and Donna King, good friends of mine, member of Navy League. Rex is Brownwater Navy. If you don't know what that was, they were running those boats up and down the Mekong Delta. And then his beautiful wife, Donna Snow King. And I got to tell you, she is a TV star in her own right. Donna, you had a great program. You're still being rebroadcast, I think, in your Texas Flip and Move. Is that correct?
Yes, you're correct. Thank you so much for having us. And hi, everybody. So very nice to meet you. Yes, sir. Texas Flip and Move. I told my executive producer when we first started down this road, I said, make no mistake. You put the word Texas in there and you've got a hit. And that's what we did. We broke all records. And I have a fan base in France, as well as I have fan bases in many different countries. But what I'm discovering is out of the 13 seasons that we filmed, there are only up to like season 7 in France, season 7, I think it is, in Australia. So it's still being discovered as it goes around the globe.
Donna, one of the things that just so amazed me about what you and Rex are doing to continue the mission is the Rodeo Queens. Explain real quickly what the Rodeo Queens and what you do. And then I'd like to go back to Admiral French and talk about some of your child care programs.
Okay. This is short and simple. I rodeoed. In fact, I'm what's called the team roper. I ride horses and I rope cattle. So as I moved into helping high school kids and those that was going into college that was graduating early, I started seeing a need to help these young boys and girls, but specifically the young girls. And then my heart was to also help any way that I could in the veteran community. My dad was mobilized during the Cuban Missile Crisis, and then I up and married a squid, so I don't know what else to say about that part. I got the attorney still looking into it. But anyway, being able to, these two loves is to rodeo and to help these young kids, focusing on the young ladies and then the military world. And I got a real bright idea to marry them. And what's happening is this is drawing in a whole new level of audience, if you will, a whole new level of, I had no idea that existed. I had no idea you could do this. And it's opening up not only their eyes, but the people, they move around. So we're bringing the rodeo world to Airpower Foundation. And in fact, we're already doing bookings for the young ladies to make appearances. It's very exciting times.
And those young ladies are really terrific. I've enjoyed that so much. And Rex, you have done a lot in your own right with helping with this, but some of the other things that you've been involved in as a Navy veteran. Tell us just a little bit about that.
Well, I've been working with my sweet wife, Donna, and I've been an amateur radio operator since 1958, and I did a whole lot of what they called foam patches back in the day before there was an internet and people being able to make phone calls from an active war zone. And I got the opportunity to meet some really awesome people that were amateur radio operators, like General Curtis LeMay, Paul Tibbets, the guy that dropped the bomb on Hiroshima. He and I became good friends until his passing. Senator Barry Goldwater and Walter Cronkite, Chet Atkins. His call sign was W4CGP. This is Chet. My call sign is Whiskey 4, certified guitar player. There was a whole host of them. Well, we've taken that, Donna and I, and have introduced that world to our young children here that are in the rodeo world. And so far have over 60 young people licensed as amateur radio operators, and opened up a whole new world for them. And as the Admiral knows, that gives them a leg up when they apply for service in the armed forces. They have an electronics background. They have a clean law background. In other words, there's no bumps in the road there, and because they can't be convicted of any crime in order to get an amateur radio license. And they're discovering all kinds of things. They can even talk to the International Space Station, and that just blew them away. They were just thrilled about that. And one of the astronauts is from Little Elm, and he's a Navy test pilot. So they were just over the moon.
There you go.
And our girls have become ambassadors of the Airpower Foundation. They go around, they help at holidays and heroes. They'll be helping this year with the Thanksgiving, helping the E5s and below to make sure that they have a Thanksgiving Day dinner. They go to everywhere they go. These girls, we went to Nashville, and that's all they talked about was Skyball, what we do with the veterans. And so I've introduced Donna to the military world, and here we are. Now, the reason why I'm sitting is last year when that picture was taken, I just got out of the hospital after 31 days in the hospital. I had been broadsided by a horse, and I got a new femur and screws in my hip and a broken arm out of the deal. And that was the day I got out of the hospital. But I wasn't going to miss Skyball. I had been to Skyball since day one, and that was not going to be the one I missed. So there I am in a wheelchair, and I'm doing the best I could to smile.
And that was great. That was great. Admiral French, to go back to your organization, can you tell us, and Nathaniel, can you pull up the website? Tell us the website. And again, because I learned so much that I didn't know by looking at your website, your Operation Little Learners, your Operation Ride Home, emergency food. You were talking about that earlier. You seem to have this passion, as you mentioned, for taking care of the younger families. And I think that is incredible. And we're pulling that up. Could you go a little bit deeper? For instance, you were talking about Operation Ride Home. I know how important that's got to be.
Yeah, well, first of all, Rex and Donna, thanks for what you're doing. As we mentioned earlier, I don't think there's anything more important that we can do right now than to attract and retain those young people that are serving our country, wearing the uniform. So thanks for what you're doing. It's having an impact, and you ought to feel really good about that.
Thank you, sir.
The Armed Services YMCA has been around since 1861, the longest serving nonprofit supporting the military. And so we run a bunch of different programs. You ask about Operation Ride Home. It's a program that we have partnered with Jack Daniels. They've been a tremendous partner, and every year we increase the number of family members, and they're all junior enlisted, pay grades E5 and below. They're family members that get to go home for the holidays. And this last year, I think we're about 1,700 family members, and each year it gets bigger. More and more people find out about it, and they realize, hey, how important it is for those young service members and their families to get back to see mom and dad and grandparents and uncles and aunts, particularly for those folks that are either on one side of the country or even more challenging in Alaska or in Hawaii, where they're a good ways away from where their families are. And to get a family of 3 or 4 back home, it gets to be prohibitively expensive for those folks in pay grades E5 and below. So that's really what we try to do with that program. You mentioned Operation Hero. That's a program where we invest time and energy to identify those kids that are struggling in school. We find that military kids who move every 2 to 3 years sometimes have a difficult time adapting to a new location, whether it's socially or whether it's dealing with the challenges in school. So we have an after-school program free to everybody who participates. The kids can be identified by the teacher, by the principal, by the parents themselves. They go into an enrichment program. They meet twice a week for about 2.5 hours each time. They work on skills, particularly things like getting their homework done and getting their confidence back, all led by a certified teacher. Another program we have is Operation Little Learner. It's a great program, again, free, where we bring young spouses in with their kids. And the purpose of this thing is for the spouses to learn to be the primary educator for their kids. And so I think there's a couple things that really come out of this. They're all in a group together. So you have these young spouses with their kids, with other spouses and their kids. So now they have an opportunity to meet other folks that have the same challenges or the same kind of time in life. And so they can establish those relationships. And then really the kids get to play each other as well. So all free, all done, all services, and it's been in place for quite a while.
That is fascinating. Again, we're taking care of the military family, and many of those kids go on to be in the military. It's kind of becoming a family business, isn't it?
Oh,
Guys,
exactly
we're
right.
going to take a commercial break here for a second and hear from all of our partners. And I want to say a special thank you to my company, Fairway Independent Mortgage, for their support of this program. My MLS number is 311-548, and the corporate one is 2289. That keeps the attorneys happy. And I provide mortgage services to the elderly, to seniors, as well as counseling. I'm a certified senior advisor, and I got to tell you, we need as much help in the senior community, which is the baby boomers like Rex and I, as we do for the children. So we're going to be right back after these words from all of our partners. This is Veterans Impact Show. We're here for you. Welcome back to the Veterans Impact Show. And thanks to our sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage and Lone Star Wealth Strategies. Now, let's continue this great conversation. I got to tell you, what a great deal. But we're talking about a great opportunity to have a huge participation with veterans and have a lot of fun. And probably the biggest, Jim Darwin, isn't this the biggest veterans gathering dinner in the United States? I believe it is, isn't it?
As I understand it, yes, sir. It is one of the largest. And this will be our 21st year of having Skyball. And we are very, very thrilled again to partner with the Texas Rangers at Globe Life Field, as we've done the last couple of years. And it's just a beautiful venue, especially now with the World Championship. But we raise money and provide direct support to our active duty military. This really came about and hit home, as Admiral French was talking a minute ago, about taking care of those young troops, E1 through 5. we got a call where there was concern of some of these folks because of COVID. The spouse lost their job or they were laid off and were having trouble making it. And one of the things was having trouble feeding their family. So we immediately jumped into action and stood up a food bank on Joint Reserve Base Fort Worth. Later on, we had the same situation happen down at Fort Cavazos in Killeen. We did the same thing there by providing support there to be able to take care of those families. We've also done direct support where they run into problems financially, being able to provide that financial support there as well. And in addition to that, the morale, welfare, and recreation things that we do for those units departing and deploying out, as well as when they return, and doing some recreational work with the families while they're left behind. So we're very thrilled with that. And then partnering with organizations like the Armed Forces YMCA, Donna and Rex, and some other organizations that provide that direct support to our veterans and their families, not only mental health and other family services. We provided, I believe the last count, I think, was over 16 mobility devices, the iBot chair, which are not cheap at all, but they provide that mobility for that veteran, that paraplegic now, who can't walk, who can't get out of that wheelchair. And that chair allows them to stand up and be face-to-face and eye-to-eye with those surrounding them that they not only work with, but their family members as well. And so we've been really, really fortunate to partner with some of the folks to be able to do that, the organization that builds those. So, yeah, we're thrilled. We're going to have a great show. We've got Terry Fader coming back with our entertainment.
Hell, he's a lot of
familiar
fun
with him.
too.
He won America's Got Talent here a while back and has a permanent show in Las Vegas. He's thrilled millions around the world with his ventriloquism. I don't understand how that works. How you have a little guy in your hand and making it work and talking as though you're not. So, but it's a fun, thrilling thing. And then to be with other veterans and their friends and family at Globe Life Field to be entertained and to honor our veterans is just, it's a great thing that we get to do.
You know, Jim, a lot of people, when you say Globe Life Park and they're in other parts of the United States, that's the Ranger baseball stadium.
It is.
And when you say meet with other veterans, you're going to have a whole field.
We'll have some 1,500 folks with us from all branches of service. And we will go through a solemn ceremony aspect that we always do with that. And then we'll have some fun at the end of it with Terry, and then a post party where we will dance the night away.
And Rex and Donna, you're going to be bringing the rodeo queens. That was so much fun last year. That was really great. And those young women are just terrific. Matter of fact, there was a Navy captain who was standing in line to get a photograph, and he looked kind of down. And I said, "Captain, what's the matter?" And he said, "Oh, well, my family couldn't come and I'm by myself." And I said, "You want to get a photograph just by yourself?" He goes, "Well, yeah." I said, what if I could get you a pretty young lady? He said, "Well, I'd like one of those over there." And he pointed. So I walked over to Donna and I said, "Donna, could I borrow one of the girls and would they do this?" So this young lady comes, the one that was in red in that photograph you just had.
Yep.
She walks over with me and I introduced her to the captain, and they were talking and they had a photograph made. Turned out her best friend is the captain's daughter. and that was small world. But those ladies, you have helped them to be so polished and so outgoing and just make people feel welcome. And so the rodeo queens were terrific. And I'm thinking there's going to be some great things for the rodeo queens this year at Skyball too.
Well, I've got a huge surprise under my sleeve. Actually, I do, and Airpower Foundation does. You don't want to miss this. It's going to be something very phenomenal. And just so y'all know, I am single-handedly trying to increase young men and women coming into the military. I'll have you know, one of my rodeo queens is now serving United States Navy in Italy.
Yay.
Awesome.
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, join the Navy, see the world.
There you
Absolutely.
go. I'm very
Except
proud.
if you did what Admiral French did, join the Navy and see the bottom of the ocean, you know?
Oh.
By the way, when you're talking about the rodeo royalty, it's not just putting on a crown and sash. Donna takes these girls out. They have to go to etiquette dining. They have to learn what fork, knife, and spoon to eat, how to get a young man to open a door, pull out a chair. They have to learn how to stand, walk, sit. They have to learn how to walk up to a Medal of Honor recipient and interview that person knowledgeably. And they have to do the same with a former POW. And last year at Skyball, Doc Ballard, I've known him for nigh on 30 years. And Doc walks over and asks Donna, says, "Can I dance with one of the royalty?"
Can I dance with a
Royalty.
queen?
And he
That's
says,
Doc.
and Donna says, "Well, sure. Which one?" He says, "All of them." And we have a picture of him dancing with 6 girls at one time. And, it doesn't get any better than that, folks.
It doesn't get any better. Well, I'll tell you what.
I mean, I've known he was a corpsman in the Navy and a doctor in the Army. I mean,
Well, I'll tell you what. It doesn't get any better than that. We're going to take a quick break to hear from all of our partners. And again, I want to say a special thank you to Fairway. And I got to say a thank you to Jim Darwin, Jim, you have done so much for our Texas community. We'll be right back.
So that's the only picture I got to take
Show.
that my wife
Thanks
didn't
to
get
our
mad.
sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage and Lone Star Wealth Strategies.
It was
Now,
great.
let's continue this great conversation. I don't know about you guys, but I'm having fun. But you know what? This is the time to start telling some war stories. Admiral French, can you talk about, without naming names, some specific success stories that you have seen that really helped a family out?
Well, I think there's a lot to look at. I think the programs that we try to run do exactly that. We get a lot of letters back from young families that were able to participate in one of our programs and spend time, allow their kids to go do things. So there's a lot of, I haven't really talked about camping programs. So we have a partnership with a broader YMCA, and we send about 15,000 kids to camp every summer. And I will tell you that the most young families can't afford, military families can't afford to send a kid to camp. And you go to a camp for a week, you make some friends there, a lot of friends there, and you have an opportunity really to do things, ride horses, go out on boats, do things that really change the lives of a lot of our young folks that wouldn't otherwise have that opportunity. So I think we try to provide those type of opportunities and chances for those young military families. And I think it all matters, right? Those young kids, you mentioned earlier, it's a family business. It is a family business. And if you look at the folks who serve, about 65% of those who serve today have had either a parent, a grandparent, an uncle, an aunt, a brother serve as well. So we need to make sure we continue to take care of those families, because that's our seed corn, I think, for the long term, our long-term ability to man and equip and secure our nation. And I think we're going through some real challenges now trying to meet recruiting goals. And a lot of it, we haven't talked about it. Somebody, I think, said somewhere only about 25% of the folks between the ages of 17 and 25, which is kind of the recruiting window we look at, are eligible to serve. Now, a lot of it's because of medical conditions, and most of that's because they're overweight. They're all playing video games, and they're not out doing things to keep them healthy. And so we've got to figure out how we fix that problem for the nation and open up the ability for more folks to be eligible to serve. And then we got to do a better job, I think, at continuing to make it such that folks want to serve and make a difference to protect their country. So I think investing in the kids like we are trying to do, and it's not just our organization, there's others, try to make sure they have the best opportunities to do things that prepare them well to serve whatever capacity they're going to serve in the future. But we need to make sure that we take care of those young folks.
And this is why Skyball is so important. We want you to donate, to participate. We have 11 TV stations in Northern California. Admiral, do you have bases of Nellis Air Force Base or some of those out in California? We want you guys to know Skyball supports the Armed Services YMCA that is in your community. Now, we are nationwide on Amazon Fire and Roku. You've got 90 bases in the United States, not just 3 in Texas, 90 that support the military community throughout the United States. You probably have some overseas as well, don't you?
We don't now. We had in the distant past. It's just difficult in the makeup that we have today. So much we have no funding from the government. It's all contributions.
Right.
So we really focus on trying to take care of those families and those service members that are here in the U.S. But we cover both Alaska and Hawaii, which some people say it kind of feels like you're overseas, but you're a good way away from your families. So we really try to focus on those. We're continuing to grow. We have 90 today. We'll probably be at 95 in the next couple of years. We're looking at opening up a new branch this next quarter up at Tacoma, Joint Base Lewis McChord, and then another one in San Antonio to take care of the many Air Force and Army folks that are down there.
Excellent.
Jim, you have a bunch. Now, we've only had 2 to highlight what Skyball does and what the Airpower Foundation does, but you have numerous beneficiaries of Skyball and the Airpower Foundation. And Wanda Cox, who's the chairman, told me that you guys are going to raise somewhere in the neighborhood of $600,000 that goes out to all of these organizations. That's huge in the community. The other thing that a lot of people don't realize, when Airpower Foundation vets an organization, then everybody else knows that this organization is solid and it does, in fact, support the veteran community. And therefore, we see other donations coming in. So again, I want everybody to jump on the bandwagon. And Nathaniel put up Skyball's logo again. There is a donation. You can also buy tickets. And if you're in Northern California or New York State or Colorado, excuse the allergies are getting me, guys. That's why I'm taking the Fisherman's Friend. You can participate even without being here by donating. I would love to see Skyball raise $1 million. I think that would be a huge, huge testimony to our veteran community that we're coming together, and to our military, who is basically, we're supporting that. So again, Nathaniel's got this up, the donation, Skyball, and so much of what Skyball does. Another charity that Skyball really helped for a long time was Snowball Express. These are children of Gold Star families. These are children who have lost a family member. And Rex, one of the big things that you did was you worked with Woody Williams on getting the Gold Star family monuments, which we have going across the United States. I think you're up to about 80 of those now, aren't you?
More than that, over 119.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic.
I'm the original board member. I'm on the Founders Advisory Board. I've known Woody. I first met him in the early 1980s, and Donna and I were blessed to be at the commissioning of the USS Woody Williams, and it was cold. We're Texans. We're not used to the cold weather, and we weren't dressed appropriately. And then it wasn't long after that when Woody passed, we made the trip to West Virginia, then back to Washington, D.C., and then down to Norfolk for all the different memorial services. And I never went through so many arches of, with the planes getting doused. It was truly a moving ceremony. But the mission continues, and as Woody called it, the cause greater than I. And we're continuing that. Back to Skyball, if you would like to do, if you'd like to do something for a service member directly, buy them a ticket. Jim would appreciate that. Buy them a ticket to Skyball. There's a lot of, military people don't make that much money. Officer are enlisted, and buy them a ticket to Skyball. Buy them a ticket for their spouse and them, the service member, and it'll be an experience they'll remember the rest of their lives.
Absolutely. Grex, I am so glad you brought that up. And
Hey, Jim.
Yes, sir.
Let me jump in here for just a second. We're
You
talking
bet.
about vetting of organizations and stuff. I'll just give you an example. It's one of the reasons that they reached out to me, some of the old board members, and invited me to become a member of the Airpower Foundation. For my background at HHSC and some of the work I did there, actually looking at the state of Texas actually has a group that vets organizations specific for veterans. In Texas, there's over 14,000 veteran 501c3s, 14,000. And of all of those 14,000, literally maybe a handful or two are the only organizations that actually do what they say they're going to do, actually balance their books, actually file their 990s with the IRS, and are straight up and down. No names mentioned, but I ran across one prominent organization years ago that we got them on the phone and talked with their board about working with the Armed Forces Bowl game that ESPN has, and telling them what it would cost them to be a part of the deal. And they were like, no, you need to give us money. And you looked at their 990, and 95% of their money went to overhead and only 5% went to direct support of veterans. And they basically, they're gone away now, which is fine. But I give you that as an example of these organizations that we work with: YMCA, Gary Sinise, Robert Irvine Foundation, all of these great groups, and some others, Freedom Mobility Foundation, that their books, they spend less than 20%, if you will, on overhead, and the rest of it, the bulk of the money, goes direct to the support of veterans and their families or active duty. And that's a really, really big thing to know. A lot of people don't know how to do that. And that's something that Airpower brings to the table. We've had a number of donors come to us saying, look, I don't have time. If I give you the money, can you make sure it goes in the right spot? And we go, yes, we can do that. And so that's one of the fortes that we've been able to do for 21 years. And we have a few organizations that we've been real generous with and specific to stay with them, like Admiral French's group. We know what's going on. We know how they operate, and we know exactly the result of what we're going to see with that. So that's where Airpower really shines in that realm, as well as the direct support that we do. And I just wanted to highlight that for a second.
No, that's what I want everybody to know, because I want to be unabashed. I want to be real bold and real direct to our audience. We want you to support Skyball. We want you to go and make a donation, Airpower Foundation, because it benefits organizations like the Armed Services YMCA. It benefits organizations like Gary Sinise and Robert Irvine and how many more. And these are all, Jim, thank you for bringing that to the table. They're well vetted. And Donna and Rex King, Admiral French, you made a point, and I want to make that point because I serve with the Army Scholarship Foundation, and what we find is so many military families, as you said, you made a point of this, they move so many times in a career. You spent 36 years. How many times did you and your family move? I mean, that's
gosh.
tough on the kids, yet those kids are so resilient.
Yep.
Those kids are so resourceful. Those kids typically go on to doing great, achieving things. And so that's part of why we want to support Skyball. We want to support the Airpower Foundation, and we want to be careful where we put our money, because some of those organizations are not self-sustaining. We'll just leave it at that. Right, Jim?
Well said.
Well, thank you. And guys,
speaking of moving around, it's that is probably one of the hardest things that happens to these families. You know,
Absolutely.
especially on the deployment. You've got the soldier, sailor, airman, marine, coastie that deploys, and who's left behind is the family. And it's very difficult on them. They've got a tough job, that spouse does, taking care of the family back home. It can be just as difficult, if not more so, as we've all learned from our spouses. Mine was an Army brat, and she moved every 3 years, which is funny because about every 3 or 4 years, she wants to change the house and furniture. one of those things that goes along. You know, I love her to death, but it's very important to make sure that we're all doing what we have to do. And like Admiral French was saying, where they take care of them, those families, it's very important.
And it's very important. Yeah, Admiral French.
One thing to add, every point you made is right on. I think the other challenge sometimes people don't understand, it's a challenge being young people, childcare and all those things today. But when you move with the military, there's a high likelihood you're not going to be around parents or grandparents or aunts or uncles that could be helpful for babysitting, for advice, for all sorts of support when you need it, because you're in some remote location, whether it's the Marine Corps or the Army, anywhere you go. And so I think that's where you really need those other organizations, nonprofits like us, like others, to be there to help those families through those tough times. And I think the deployments, when the spouse is alone for 6, 8, 9 months at a time, it's almost like being a single parent away from the natural support system you have with your family around. So I think it's even harder than what a lot of people understand about being a military family when you have somebody who deploys in some basis. And then you move every 3 years, right?
Admiral French, one of the points you made by having the summer camps, and this is what I learned when we videotaped Skyball. And Jim, I think you were instrumental in helping me get involved with Skyball. What we found is those kids relate to other kids that are military kids, and obviously children that are members of families who have lost a veteran, who have lost a service member in combat or in service to our country. They feel isolated. They feel different. In many cases, they were in a military family that moved around, and then now they're going back to a home that they don't know and restarting all over again, but without a mom or a dad. And this is huge in what your YMCA is doing by getting these kids together in camps. You said 15,000. That's amazing. What could we do if we could raise over $1 million through Skyball to be able to help organizations like the Armed Services YMCA? What could we do with Donna and Rex King to be able to have rodeo queens in many cities throughout the United States where they don't get exposure to that outdoor lifestyle? They don't get exposure to what it takes to be a great young lady or a young man. These are important. So we want to support these. Again, go to Airpower Foundation, go to Skyball, donate. Rex, you were so right on in saying, hey, buy tickets for a young family. And whether you are in Northern California or Northern New Jersey, I couldn't want to be there. But if you're in Virginia, that's beautiful. I'm trying to tell you across the nation, because we are across the nation, you can participate with what we're doing. This is a nationwide effort to be able to help people. Again, go to Skyball, donate, buy a ticket for somebody else if you can't go. And if you do want to be here, they have hotel accommodations at the Sheridan. That's one of the sponsors of Skyball. We got a way to get you there to the ball, and it is so much fun. So I want to tell you, I'm going to be there. Diane's going to be there, and it's a tremendous evening to meet the young men and women. So we'll be right back after these words from all of our partners. And I got to tell you, we are so thankful to have everybody who supports us. So be a sponsor, be a company that helps the Airpower Foundation, and also subscribe to our YouTube, the Veterans Impact Show. Help us grow, help us to get the word out. We'll be right back because we're here for you after all these messages. Welcome back to the Veterans Impact Show. And thanks to our sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage and Lone Star Wealth Strategies. Now, let's continue this great conversation. I'm having a great time. I'm talking about one of my favorite things, which is veterans activities, but especially veterans activities that support the young family, that support children. And Donna and Rex, thank you so much for what you're doing with the Rodeo Queens. I hope and pray that we can help you to spread that throughout the United States. And like I said, can you imagine having Rodeo Queens in New Jersey? I mean, that would be something.
That would be.
We have there are rodeo queens literally in just about every state of the United States. There's rodeo queens in Australia as far as that goes. One thing that really brought things full circle for me in my thinking was part of the program with these young ladies, teaching them to smile, teaching them to embrace who they are, teaching them and helping them to discover and to get their full potential about life, their goals, what they want to be, where they want to go in life. And you should have seen the looks on these young ladies' faces when I told them we will be working this year with and under Wanda Cox, the first female, the first lady chairman of the board. Their eyes lit up. And I got to say one more thing about these young ladies. One of my queens, I won't say her name, she's been to two Skyballs. When I first met her, she could not smile. She couldn't. She could not smile. I don't care what you did. She could not smile. I do not know everything that went on in the past, but as we worked with her, as we made appearances, as we rodeoed, they just don't run around the arena on a horse, hello, here I am. That's not it. They're out there face down in the mud rodeoing. But when we got through that first year, when we got to the end of the year, the first year end awards banquet, all of a sudden the entire board looked up and there she was. And the most beautiful smile you've ever seen. And it's like all of a sudden something broke off of her. She had a breakthrough. And her parents told me straight on, it was because of the program that we had designed for the rodeo royalty.
And not only are they doing the stuff that you just heard about, but during the year, they went out and helped out a widow of a World War II sailor and cleaned out the garden that they used to love to go to in the backyard, completely cleaned it out and replanted it and made it look just like it was when he was still alive. They went out and cleaned out another World War II veteran over in Arlington, and they do this throughout the year, and just to help out. This is part of their citizenship that they're being taught.
Well, this is true. We also went up to Justin, and there was a gentleman, retired sailor, retired, and he had open heart surgery.
That's right.
And he had a stall in his backyard that it was packed, needed to be cleaned up. So we showed up there. I had one rodeo dad there, and the rest of us was female.
Yep.
And this one rodeo dad said, well, I guess that's it. We'll have to cancel this until we can get some manpower in here. And I had turned and I looked at him and I said, hold my iced tea. I'll be right back. Yeah. Necessity was the mother of invention. So I came back and I the tiller, and we got up on there and I said, you take turns riding that tiller around here. And those that start breaking it up, you start loading the back of my pickup. Then one of you take it, you go out there, and then you broadcast it because this is good compost, if you will, for his back pasture.
How about that?
Don't tell me it can't be done.
This is the sort of thing that veterans are doing. And Admiral French, in what you guys are doing, there are 90 Armed Forces YMCA throughout the nation on bases. If I wanted to go volunteer with the Joint Reserve Base, who do I contact? Do I go through your national website, or is there a way to contact somebody in my local community?
Yeah, I think the best thing is for you to, if you want to do that, go to our website, reach out, and we'll connect you with the right folks. We've got a great relationship down there with the Fort Worth YMCA. They run the camp that's right next, right there, close by, and we send, thanks to Airpower Foundation, we send kids there every year, both from the Dallas-Fort Worth area as well as from Killeen. So again, we couldn't do that, couldn't have that opportunity there without the Airpower Foundation. You guys have done so much to make a difference for those kids' lives that get away for that summer camp. And there's several sessions each year. So if you haven't done it yet, go see that. And they always invite visitors to come to go look at the camp itself and go see what the kids are doing there.
That's a neat place. I've been there. But again, we're not talking about just Dallas-Fort Worth. We're talking about nationwide. This organization is there and is vetted. And let me tell you something. If a Marine like Jim Darwin says you're good to go, trust him. Right, Jim? Well, again.
Hoorah. Yes, sir. That's it.
Yes, sir. And so we want to say,
if you're not good to go, we will
PT
you until you are good to go.
You bet.
There you go.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I like to close with a prayer. I want everybody to know how important it is to bring this nation back together. So, Lord God of the universe, we just say a great prayer of thanks for your hedge of protection around our active duty military, those who run into the fire, the soldiers, the sailors, the airmen, the Marines. Thank you, God, for protecting them. And thank you, God, for protecting our first responders. And thank you, God, for our veterans who lead the way to bring this nation back together. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This we say in your holy name. Amen. Dear
Amen.
Lord, thank you. Thank you for men like Admiral French and Rex and Donna King and Jim Darwin. And go to, again, Skyball. Nathaniel put that up. We want you to donate. We want you to participate. If you can't come, buy a ticket for somebody else. Thank you for being part of this. And thank you for all of those who support us, and for Fairway Independent Mortgage for what you do for me. Thank you for our American Warrior Initiative, over $1 million worth of service dogs. Now, we didn't provide Ronan, but we've got a lot of them out there. Ronan is Rex's dog. So thank you again. Thank you. And be here next week. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you. And this is the Veterans Impact Show. Have a great day.